A Merry Christmas to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. Welcome to The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the hour. Russia launches major missile and drone attack in Ukraine, targeting the nation's energy infrastructure. Dozens killed after plane crashes with about 70 people on board in Kazakhstan. Plus, world leaders giving their best wishes this Christmas. Let's begin The World Today. It started off as a dark Christmas in many parts of Ukraine following Russia's launch of a major missile and drone attack on the country's energy infrastructure. Russia has confirmed the attack, saying the goal was achieved. Dnipro Mayor Boris Filatov says his city was attacked and there are at least 65 homes currently without heating. Temperatures in the city are said to be at 4 degrees Celsius. Kharkiv regional head Oleg Sinagubov has urged people to stay indoors because of the threat of Russian attacks, which he says might also target the city center. Only 4 deaths have been reported so far, though the focus of the attacks have been on energy infrastructure and civilian buildings. The attacks have been condemned by leaders in the West. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer paying tribute to the resilience of the Ukrainian people and the leadership of President Volodymyr Zelensky. He, however, said it remains vital to redouble efforts to place Ukraine in the strongest possible position to end Russia's illegal aggression. Ukraine did respond to the Russian drone attacks with one of its own in the city of Vladikavkaz in Russia's North Ossetia region. The local governor there confirmed the attack on his Telegram account, saying its air defense systems had shot down the drone. One woman was reported to have been killed inside a shopping center by the drone. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, 119 Ukrainian drones were destroyed in the last 24 hours. Ukraine was the focal point of Pope Francis' Christmas message today at the Vatican. He called for talks between Ukraine and Russia to end the war that followed Moscow's full-scale invasion 2 years ago and killed thousands of people. In his Christmas Day Ubi et Orbi to the city and world address, Pope Francis mentioned the Ukraine conflict directly and called for the boldness needed to open the door to negotiation. Speaking from the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica to thousands of people in the square below, the Pope said, "May the sound of arms be silenced in war-torn Ukraine." He also called for gestures of dialogue and encounter in order to achieve a just and lasting peace. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had previously ruled out engaging in peace talks without the restoration of Ukraine's pre-war borders. But Zelensky has shown an increasing willingness in the weeks since Donald Trump's re-election as U.S. president to enter negotiations. Earlier this month, the president raised the idea of a diplomatic settlement that would involve a freezing of the current battle lines and the deployment of foreign troops in Ukraine, Russia demanding that Ukraine abandon its ambitions to join the NATO military alliance instead. The 88-year-old Pope, celebrating the 12th Christmas of his pontificate, called for an end to conflicts, political, social, or military, in places including Lebanon, Mali, Mozambique, Haiti, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. I want to bring in now Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies and Head of Department of History and Strategic Studies, Professor David Awarawo. He joins us now virtually from his residence in Lagos. Professor, thank you for joining us on the program and compliments of the season.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And I think that we're all used to, the advantage of the religious holidays for many conflicts around the world. You half expect people will carry out attacks on days like this, but here we are. Do you think Russia caught Ukraine in an opportune time?
Yes, it did, and surprisingly so. Over the years, different countries at war have attempted to take advantage of celebrations, festivals to gain advantage over enemy forces. The attack that Russia carried out in Ukraine overnight and this morning is just along with that thinking and following that pattern. It seems to have taken Ukraine unawares, and it is surprising that is the case, because one expects that Ukraine will have expected Russia to attempt to attack, taking advantage of the Christmas holiday. It has a long history. When Babylon fell in October 539 BC, there were some celebrations that Persia took advantage of. And you also recall that when Hamas attacked Israel, October the 7th last year, there was also some celebration in Israel which gave them an advantage. So it is not something that should be surprising to people at war. They should always expect that the enemy country will want to take advantage of some celebration to attack and then, of course, gain the momentum.
Indeed, I would have been surprised if there were no attacks either in Israel or in Gaza, in Syria, or even in Ukraine. But what is the strategy behind attacking Ukraine, especially Ukraine's power infrastructure on Christmas Day? I mean, we've seen Russian attacks on Ukraine's power infrastructure in the past few weeks, but how significant is it that it's happening on a day like this when both countries do have their histories in the church, in Christendom, when they're supposed to be observing a Christian religious festival?
I'm not sure that people at war bother much about celebrations like this. People at war, their concern is how to gain advantage and possibly win. And so what they try to do is to take advantage of situations like this. But three reasons can be identified, as why Russia would target such infrastructure. One, to degrade Ukraine's military capacity. Two, to disrupt Ukraine as much as possible. People are celebrating, and then you're attacking. And of course, those infrastructure, that's three. They are those things that would, cause a lot of chaos in Ukraine if successful. And we have seen how much chaos it has caused, with some success that was recorded overnight and then early this morning. So what Russia has done is in line with military strategy. And it seems to have, yielded some result. It has given some momentum to Russia in the course of this conflict. Of course, just a few days ago, Ukraine succeeded in attacking Russia and gaining some advantage. And now Russia has taken advantage of this holiday to try to turn things around in its own favor. So it is not surprising that we have this happening, despite the fact that both countries have a large number of Christians, and this is supposed to be a Christian holiday.
And the Ukrainian government also responded with an attack on Russia's Ossetia region, though not as intense as the Russian attacks were earlier in the day. What sort of message do you think this sent across to Russia?
One expects Ukraine to try to fight back. And of course, Ukraine has done just that. But the impact hasn't been as extensive as the attack of Russia on Ukraine. But to also gain psychological advantage in military strategy and in fighting, when morale is dampened, it always has a huge impact. So for several reasons, one, for Russia to assure its people that it's up to the task, and of course, second, to also boost psychology and morale. So it hasn't achieved as much as Russia's attack on Ukraine, but it is in line with military tradition as well, so that from tomorrow they can continue their regular normal fighting. But at least Ukraine has made a statement by attacking back, as quickly as possible, following Russia's attack overnight and early this morning.
In just a few months, we'll be counting the third year. This war will be entering its third year since it started in 2022. Do you think morale is still high, especially on the side of Ukraine?
Yes, the stakes are still high, and both sides are pursuing their objectives. Russia is pursuing the objective of showing that it is the power in that region, and that it can stand up to the West, and of course also that it can exercise control over the other smaller states around it, making up the former Soviet Union. Ukraine, for its part, is also pursuing its objective of protecting its sovereignty, and more or less like fighting an existential war. That is why negotiations, diplomacy is not yielding fruits, because both sides continue to hold on to their objective, and they think they can pursue the logical conclusion by gaining victory. But if you ask me, my opinion is that Russia's objective in the war is already lost, because the objective was to prevent NATO from having a foothold in any of the surrounding countries to Russia. But since this war started, Finland has joined NATO, Sweden has joined NATO. So that central objective that Russia sought to, achieve right from the outset is now lost. But of course, both sides will continue to fight and see whether they can gain advantage or win, defeat the other side, and of course, fully fulfill its objective. But as it is now, for me, from the Russia's point of view, is a war that is unnecessary and useless.
But the Ukrainian side is still confident of a NATO membership. In fact, I think in the last couple of weeks, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has intensified discussions around that, meeting with the Polish Prime Minister sometime 2 weeks ago about the same issue. Russia wants concessions from Ukraine to be met before this war is called off. Do you think Ukraine might consider these concessions that Russia is asking for? And do you think that Russia in turn might allow Ukraine eventually apply for NATO membership?
Russia will not allow Ukraine to apply for NATO membership. If Ukraine eventually joins NATO, it will be despite Russia's opposition. It will be too humiliating for Russia to concede to align Ukraine to join NATO. Will Ukraine grant concessions? I think after the inauguration of the new president in the United States, when Biden leaves, Ukraine would likely consider granting more concessions than it had ever, considered granting until now. Because, of course, Ukraine cannot fight Russia alone. America's support has been crucial to Ukraine's position and refusal to accept some concessions, up till now. But after Trump's inauguration on the 20th of January next year, that support will not likely be there as it is there now. And that will likely compel the Ukrainian leaders to grant more concession than previously. And that may be a window to ending the war anyway, even though it will be at the detriment of Ukraine and to Russia's advantage.
It might be, but what if the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, what if he makes an about turn and begins to support Ukraine, keeping up those agreements made by the Biden administration to Ukraine, as some promises have been made even by President Biden, even though he has only a few weeks in office, but he did make some military promises to the Ukrainian government. Do you think that Trump will honor those when he comes into office as president?
It is very unlikely that Trump will make an about turn. Trump has a set of policies or policy objectives that he has committed himself to. And one of them is to concentrate on America's interests. And Trump has consistently opposed the extensive support that the U.S. has given to Ukraine, all of this, since the war started, in 2022. And so it is very unlikely that Trump is going to make an about turn and begin to give the kind of support that U.S. has given to Ukraine under Biden. And so what is more reasonable to expect is that Trump will give less support to Ukraine. Trump will try to get Russia to accept concessions, and Trump will try to get Ukraine to see that it will be futile to continue to fight Russia. And that may be the beginning of the end of the war. So the likelihood that Trump will give the kind of support that Biden has given to Ukraine after he takes over early next year, very, very unlikely. And so, we expect that After Trump comes into office, it won't be long before the Russia-Ukraine war comes to an end.
But if he's withdrawing support from Ukraine, then he is giving the support to Russia. You don't think so?
Well, it will not likely be that he will give support to Russia, but it will be easier because Russia is standing on its own. It will be easier for Trump to influence Ukraine than to influence Russia. Russia is fighting on its own, and of course, a few allies that are joining Russia, to prosecute the war. It is Ukraine that cannot stand Russia if Ukraine is not supported. And American support has been key to Ukraine's ability to sustain this war until this time. And so, the Americans know it, Trump knows it, his supporters know it, and so it will be just easy for Trump to make the Ukrainians know that the kind of support they have received previously will not be there, and that they should accept concessions. They shouldn't hold on to the position they had held onto until now, so that they will not be humiliated by Russia in the event that American support ceases. In fact, the Ukrainian leaders are already getting the message, and if you see the body language, it's already towards accepting some concessions far more than they had previously accepted, so that Russia will not defeat them and humiliate them. That is what I think will be the trajectory from this point, which will likely help to bring the war to an end.
What do you make of Ukraine's other allies in Europe? A lot of them dragging their feet when it comes to Ukraine support, especially this time. What do you make of this self-preservation that they seem to be exhibiting?
It is clear. They are not the ones that Russia has attacked, and they have seen the devastating impact of the war on Ukraine. And since they have not been directly affected, and they have also perceived the support that the West is giving to Ukraine, and how far that has gone, and the fact that this war has dragged on and on and on until now, it only makes sense for them to want to concentrate on their internal affairs, hoping that the West will help end the war one way or the other, and they will not leave the atmosphere too murky for them to be able to continue after the war ends. And so one can understand why they have maintained the position they have maintained. Even the West, we have seen some of the countries in the West also, becoming lukewarm. Fortunately for Ukraine, the countries that have remained steadfast are also the ones that have had the most resources, mainly the United States and the United Kingdom. And so one can understand why these countries have maintained a lukewarm attitude in the past couple of months. They have seen how the war has played out. In any case, their strong support for Ukraine has not, made any significant impact on how the war has turned out to be so far. So one can understand their position, in the last couple of months, not giving as much support as they have given Ukraine previously, which is in line with, effort to also look at their own national interest and, of course, self-preservation, as you have said.
Professor David Awurawo, thank you for joining us this Christmas Day to discuss Ukraine and Russia's invasion.
Thanks so very much, Amarachi. Have a nice evening.
You too. In other news now, dozens of people have died after a passenger plane crashed with about 70 people on board in Kazakhstan. Authorities in Azerbaijan, where the flight originated, say there were at least 30 survivors. Azerbaijan Airlines flight J28243 caught fire as it attempted to make an emergency landing near the Kazakh city of Aktau. The plane was en route to Grozny in Russia, but it was diverted due to fog. The airline said the plane made an emergency landing about 3 kilometers from Aktau. It took off from Azerbaijani capital Baku on Wednesday and crashed around 6:28 a.m. According to data from the flight tracking website, Flight Radar 24. Reports from Russian media say the aircraft collided with a flock of birds before crashing, but it's not yet been confirmed. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin began his speech at the CIS summit in Russia's Leningrad region with condolences to those who suffered in that recent plane crash in Kazakhstan. An Embraer passenger plane operated by Azerbaijan Airlines flying from Azerbaijan to Russia crashed near the city of Aktau in Kazakhstan this morning. 62 passengers were on board that plane, 5 crew members as well. Authorities say 28 people survived. Kazakhstan's emergency ministry said in a statement the fire services put out the blaze and survivors, including 2 children, were being treated at a nearby hospital. The bodies of those who died in the crash have been recovered. Russia's aviation watchdog said in a statement that preliminary information suggests the pilots of the plane had decided to make an emergency landing following a bird strike. Bombardment by the Pakistani army in Afghanistan's eastern Paktika province has on Tuesday killed at least 46 people, many of whom were children and women. That's according to the Taliban, who has vowed to retaliate against their neighbor. The bombing occurred at 4 locations in Afghanistan, according to Deputy Spokesman Hamdullah Fitrat, who said that 6 people were also injured. Pakistani government and military officials did not immediately respond to requests for comments on the issue. One Pakistani official, however, said that Pakistan had carried out airstrikes against a camp in the Pakistani Taliban Islamist militant group. The TTP pledges allegiance to and gets its name from the Afghan Taliban, but it's not directly a part of the group that now rules Afghanistan. It says that its aim is to impose Islamic religious laws in Pakistan, as the Taliban has done in Afghanistan. We're off on a short break on The World Today. Still ahead. Christmas Day rescue for migrants aboard a sunken boat off the Canary Islands. Stay with us. Welcome back. Turkish President Recep Erdogan says Kurdish militants in Syria will either lay down their weapons or be buried amid hostilities between Turkey-backed Syrian fighters and the militants since the fall of Bashar al-Assad this month. Following Assad's departure, Ankara has repeatedly insisted that the Kurdish YPG militia must disband, asserting that the group has no place in Syria's future. The change in Syria's leadership has left the country's main Kurdish factions on the back foot. Turkey views the Kurdish YPG militia, the main component of the US-allied Syrian Democratic Forces, as an extension of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, which has waged an insurgency against the Turkish state since 1984. The PKK is designated a terrorist organization by Turkey, the United States, and the European Union. Ankara, however, has repeatedly called on its NATO ally Washington and others to stop supporting the YPG. Syrian Christians in the capital Damascus attended Christmas Eve Mass on Tuesday evening amid high security measures and the first major Christian event following the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad. Members of church scouts, civil defense personnel, and fighters of the Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham surrounded this Lady of Damascus church in Syria's capital. Early in the day, hundreds of Christians gathered in eastern Damascus to protest Monday's burning of a Christmas tree in the Al-Sukaybiyah district in Hama northern countryside. The protest comes amid rising concerns over attacks on Christian sites. On December 18, unidentified gunmen opened fire at a Greek Orthodox church in the city of Hama, entering the compound and attempting to destroy a cross, smashing headstones in a cemetery, according to the church. Syrian church leaders are advising Christians to scale back celebrations this year, despite assurances from Islamists who have just taken power that they are free to practice their religion. Let's move to the West Bank now, where a 17-year-old boy has been killed during an Israeli airstrike earlier today in Tamun town near Tubas in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. The Israeli military said its air forces targeted Palestinian militants in Tamun, adding that they were responsible for planting explosive devices. Hundreds of Palestinians and dozens of Israelis have been killed in the West Bank since October 7, 2023, in that attack by Hamas militants on southern Israel that triggered the war in Gaza and wider conflict on several fronts. Meanwhile, Israeli forces on Tuesday killed at least 8 Palestinians in raids on a refugee camp near the city of Tulkarm in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, according to officials in the area. 53-year-old woman Kaula Abdo was killed as a result of shelling by Israeli forces at dawn. An 18-year-old man also died after being shot in the abdomen and chest. Later on Tuesday, the health ministry updated the death toll to 8 after a new round of shelling in Tulkarm by Israeli forces. Hamas armed wing Al-Qassam Brigade said in a statement 2 of its members were killed by Israeli forces also in Tulkarm. The Israeli military said earlier it killed 1 Palestinian in a counter-terrorism operation in Tulkarm, while forces arrested 18 other unwanted individuals and confiscated dozens of weapons. But it was a somber Christmas Eve for people in Gaza, especially the Christians, many of them inside the Latin compound of the Holy Family Church, seeking refuge in the ongoing conflict with Israel. The church is the only Catholic church in Gaza. It's a temporary home for many. Its compound filled with belongings and makeshift tents at the moment. The Christian community is very small in Gaza, which since 2006 has been controlled by the Islamist group Hamas. Gaza's population comprises an estimated 1,000 Christians, many of whom are Greek Orthodox. And we're back in Tulkarm, where the battalion of Hamas armed wing Al-Qassam Brigades released this footage, which you'll see shortly, set to show the detonation of an Israeli military bulldozer in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. While reporters on the ground were unable to confirm the location or the date of the video independently, but official Palestinian news agency Wafa said bulldozers have been demolishing infrastructure in a refugee camp near the city of Tulkarm, including homes, shops, parts of the walls of Al Salam Mosque, which they barricaded off, and parts of the camp's water network. Israeli forces also killed 8 Palestinians in raids on Tuesday in the refugee camp, according to officials in the area. Christian worshippers attended the midnight Christmas Mass at the Church of the Nativity in the West Bank town of Bethlehem in the early hours of today, just as the war in Gaza rages on. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem led the service in the town revered by Christians as Jesus' place of birth. In the historic city of Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank, due to Israeli attacks on Gaza, the streets were not decorated for this year's Christmas, as in previous years, and the Christmas tree in front of the Church of the Nativity was not illuminated. The Church of the Nativity is administered by 3 churches: the Roman Catholic Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, and the Armenian Church. Over 200,000 Christians, a small but tight-knit community, make up an estimated 1% to 2% of the population in Israel and the occupied West Bank. Away from the Middle East, Spanish Coast Guards today rescued dozens of migrants off the Canary Islands. At least 5 wooden boats were located at sea just a few miles off the coast of the Spanish archipelago. Coast Guards towered in the ports in Gran Canaria earlier today, a wooden boat carrying 60 men and 4 women. Emergency services said 3 more wooden boats were located off El Hierro and 1 more carrying more than 40 migrants off the island of Tenerife. The Canaries have registered the fastest increase in arrivals by sea in the European Union this year, according to data from border agency Frontex. By December 15, they had received a total of 43,737 migrants. That's 18.6% more in the same period last year. Surinamen's fugitive former president, Desi Bouterse, has died at the age of 79, almost a year after he fled authorities to avoid jail time following his conviction over the murder of 15 political activists in 1982. Foreign Minister Albert Ramdin told reporters the government has been informed through the family and its own investigations of the passing of Mr. D. Bortes, ex-president of the Republic of Suriname. The government said the former leader died on Tuesday. It did not confirm where or even which country he died in. Last week, Surinamese authorities raided his home where supporters gathered to pay their last respects early this morning, but they did not find him. Bortes dominated politics in the tiny South American country for decades, leading a coup in 1980 and finally leaving office in 2020. In 2019, he and 6 others were convicted for their role in the 1982 murders of 15 leading government critics, including lawyers, journalists, union leaders, soldiers, and university professors, for which Bortes received a 20-year prison sentence. Bortes had claimed he murdered the men, or the murdered men were connected to a planned invasion of the former Dutch colony. Following years of legal back and forth, Bortes was ordered to report to prison in January, but did not show up on the appointed date. We're off on another break. On The World Today, I promise you more cheery stories coming up ahead. Plus, while parts of the world experiencing a drop in temperatures, those in Australia spending the day enjoying the sand and sun. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we did promise you more cheery Christmas news. Britain's King Charles and members of the royal family have attended a Christmas Day service at St. Mary Magdalene's Church on the Sandringham estate. King Charles arrived at the church accompanied by Queen Consort Camilla, the Prince and Princess of Wales, Sir William and Catherine, and their children, Prince George, Prince Charlotte, Prince Louis, and other members of the royal family. Prince Andrew, the king's younger brother, was notably absent from this gathering following a High Court judgment that linked him to an alleged Chinese spy. Back here in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu has called on citizens to renew their hope and belief in a prosperous Nigeria as the country is on a promising path of restoration and progress, pointing towards a bright future. In its Christmas message to Christians across Nigeria and around the world, the president noted that Christmas embodies the fulfillment of divine prophecy and symbolizes the triumph of love, peace, and unity. According to him, it is a poignant reminder that light can emerge even in the darkest times, bringing solace and hope. This belief resonates with people of all faiths. Indeed, God is with us. The president emphasized and sympathized with families enduring pain and loss, whether from floods, fires, or accidents, including the recent stampedes in Ibadan, Ukija, and in Abuja. In the spirit of the season, President Tinubu called for compassion for those facing difficulties, prayers for military troops who are out safeguarding the country, and prayers for the country's leaders. Let's hear from more presidents now. The president of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, has called on Germans in his traditional Christmas address not to let feelings of hatred and separation take over days after a deadly attack on Magdeburg's Christmas market. In his pre-recorded televised speech to be aired later this evening, President Steinmeier spoke of grief, pain, horror, and disbelief about what happened in Magdeburg a few days before Christmas. That 50-year-old psychiatrist from Saudi Arabia drove his car into a Christmas market on Friday night, killing at least 5 people and injuring about 200 others. President Steinmeier, elected for a second 5-year term in 2022, said that while there was a dark shadow over Christmas this year, hatred and violence must not have the last word. He called for cohesion, saying this is what our country is all about. Zusammenhalt. And from the U.S. President Joe Biden, a Christmas message accompanied by a video showcasing the festive decorations at the White House. How silently, he says, how silently the wondrous gift is given. There's a certain stillness at the center of this. Let's hear more.
as everything that divides us all fades away in stillness of the winter's evening. And we look to the sky, to the lone star, shining brighter than all the rest, guiding us to the birth of a child Christians believe to be the Son of God, bringing hope, love, and peace and joy to the world. Yes, even after 2,000 years, Christmas still has the power to lift us up, to bring us together, to change lives, to change the world. It speaks to all of us as human beings who are here on this earth, to care for one another, to love one another. And too often we see each other as enemies, not as neighbors, not as fellow Americans. So my hope this Christmas season is that we take a few moments of quiet reflection, find that stillness in the heart of Christmas, and look at each other as who we really are, fellow Americans, fellow human beings worthy of being treated with dignity and respect, because there's so much that unites us as Americans, so much more that unites us than divides us. We're truly blessed to live in this nation, and I truly hope we take the time to look out, not at one another, for one another. As we sing O Holy Night, may I wish for you and for our nation, now and always, that we'll live in the light of liberty and hope, of love and generosity, of kindness and compassion, of dignity and decency. So from the Biden family, we wish you and your family peace, joy, health, and happiness. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and may God protect our troops.
Here in Nigeria, many people are on their way in and out of several states across the country, while efforts by authorities to ensure safety and ease traffic congestion, which I'm sure many of us are witnessing on the roads today. The rising cost of air and road travel highlights the need for more accessible and affordable transportation options for citizens. This report brings us more on different travel experiences this holiday season.
It's the Yuletide season, which is a busy time across Nigeria as residents prepare to celebrate the holidays with family and friends. The Murtala Muhammad Airport in Ikeja, Lagos is busy with travelers and their luggage trying to catch a flight to various destinations. The rise in cost of ticket fares is a major concern for many of them.
It's not really nice because I can remember when we used to fly for 27,000 naira. So I paid over 260,000 naira just to go.
For the struggling Nigerian youth and for average Nigerians, it's really a tough time this period. And if you want to go by road, you consider like the insecurity, the fuel increase, the hike in the transportation fare as well. So nothing is really even easing up the whole movement from Lagos to the east, especially for people going to the east and traveling back home too as well.
But that's not all the troublesome passengers are faced with. This young man says he seems to not have a ticket even after making payment.
We travel by air just this time. This is my first time traveling local airport for Nigeria. We spent 917,000 naira and they say we no get tickets.
917,000 naira for one person?
For 3 people. We've been waiting since 7 in the morning.
Meanwhile, at the Jibowu Motor Park in Lagos, road transportation costs have also skyrocketed, leaving many travelers frustrated.
The price here is quite outrageous. It's very high compared to last year what I paid. Now they are telling me that the price is 60,000, from 60 to 55, so vary. And last year, although I came from Benin to Lagos State, but it wasn't this much. I paid over 17 or 20, but now it doubled.
This driver, however, says the high fares are unavoidable due to the increase in fuel prices.
Even me, we are complaining. Things are too expensive. Okay, look at this motor. It's only one motor I have ordered this morning because of the price. How much we buy fuel? When the road motor finish, it collects 60,000 naira, 55,000 naira from people. When they give the driver money for fuel, the whole money have already gone. There's no money again to settle.
In Benin City, the Edo State capital in the south-south, There's no crowd in a frenzy to travel, a situation blamed on the economic hardship of the country. Nevertheless, some are determined to make the trip home. But in Onitsha, Anambra State, it's getting busy with vehicular movement at the Anambra axis of the Niger Bridgehead. To ensure free traffic flow as well as enhance security, the Anambra State Police Command partners with the Federal Road Safety Corps, assuring citizens of a strengthened security system this period.
We've stepped up patrols on both sides to ensure that the security concerns are addressed. From the new bridge towards the swamp to the Onitsha-Owerri end, it's about 5 kilometers. We've activated patrols to ensure that 24/7 they are covered.
As Nigerians journey through the festive season, the challenges of economic hardship and rising transportation costs are undeniable. Yet the determination to reunite with loved ones and celebrate remains a strong motivation to go home.
Well, it's not often you meet people born on the same day as Christmas Day, and that's why we have Christy Ogolo, a Nigerian living in Toulouse, France. She's also a mom of 3 wonderful boys and a projects manager currently now in France, which is her new home. Christy, it's great to see you. Merry Christmas, I should say. I should begin with. And I guess that's probably why it's easy to remember your birthday. It's also easy to understand why you are called Christy, because you were born on Christmas Day, right? You really need to unmute your microphone. We have to hear your voice. Christy's still trying to get the technology right. We'll try to hook up with her in just a minute. But in the meantime, locals, tourists and dogs soaking up the Christmas spirit at Sydney's Bondi Beach. Christmas Day, enjoying the sunny weather, wearing festive Santa hats and posing for photographs with a Christmas tree on the sand. A first-time visitor to Bondi Beach from Scotland described the experience as something quite special. Used to seeing snow during Christmas, aren't we? Sydney's ocean beaches, famed for golden sand and clean water, draw tourists from around the globe. Christmas Day is also one of the busiest days of the year for volunteer lifeguards who patrol Bondi Beach shores and waves, ensuring the safety of swimmers along the roughly 1 kilometer stretch of the beach.
Our first Christmas on Bondi Beach. It's been a good morning so far. We've had a dip in the sea. It's pretty warm, not a cloud in the sky. And the orange juice is flowing.
It's going well.
Factor 50 on, of course. From England, you can't take any chances. So, we're having a good time.
Always staying vigilant and always having your eye open for anything that can happen, but also Christmas Day, our volunteers are what drive us here. So people are giving up their own Christmas Day to come down, so we can sometimes be short on members, but not today. We've got a great team on.
Loving it, not missing home at all. Obviously only been here 3 days, so just sinking in now, but to wake up this morning and come to the beach on Christmas Day is something quite special.
And we can get back now to Christy Ogolo, the Nigerian mom and product manager who's living in Toulouse. Born on Christmas Day. Christy, how does it feel to share your birthday with Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world?
Wow, it feels great. I get all the excitement. I feel that the whole world is celebrating my birthday and celebrating that of Jesus at the same time. So my birthday is like always a special time for me, because there's always enough to eat.
Yeah, and it's easy to remember your birthday, right? And it's because, first of all, your name is Christy, indicating that you were born on a special day, Christmas Day. But growing up for you, how did your birthday celebrations go? I mean, your family confused about who exactly to celebrate, or did they choose to celebrate you first or to celebrate Christmas first?
That question, growing up, I wasn't too excited anyway to be born on Christmas Day, because it seemed that if I didn't have any special day meant for. At a stage, I had to ask my mom, why was I born on Christmas Day? And she said, you chose to come on Christmas Day. So, but along the line, my sisters understood the ordeal I was going through, and they took their time to make special cakes for me. In the midst of the celebration, they took their time to make special cakes for me and make me feel, okay, today is your special day. So along the line, I started appreciating it that, okay, they actually noticed me and somebody is actually celebrating me and not getting carried away with the festivity, the Christmas cooking and all that.
Yeah, and this is, one of those moments you are outside of the country on this very special day. I understand your kids are not with you, but they must have called mommy earlier on in the day to say Merry Christmas and at least unforgettably happy birthday.
Yeah, the first year, this is my second Christmas actually. The first year, which was last year, they were like, Mommy, it's so strange celebrating Christmas without you. And I said, yes. And this year again, one or two had a mental breakdown. And I was like, no, it's okay. We're going to be okay and all that. But to them, it's strange because Christmas is synonymous with mommy's birthday. And so mommy not being there and having Christmas is like, it's not a complete package. Something is missing. So, and I hope that the next Christmas they'll be around to celebrate with me.
Yeah, and very quickly, just before you go, you could tell the difference between Christmas here in Nigeria and then Christmas in France. Tell us how different it is for you.
No, Nigerians, we are wonderful people. Christmas in Nigeria comes with a lot of activity. I was speaking with my sister this morning and she was talking about sending food to the neighbor. And I just started laughing. You don't see any neighbor to send food to around here. For me as a person, I'm a social butterfly. So I have one or two Nigerian community I socialize with here. So like this evening, I have one or two families I'm hanging out with for Christmas. But that Mabisira is cooking food. You want to go and meet Yabose and the Yabose just brings food. Nobody brings any food to you. All you just see is the road is dry. It's like every normal. You see Christmas decorations, but that festivity, that bubbling of Christmas and all that, you don't see it here. All you just see is just the Christmas red, the white, and the Christmas trees, and that's all. Nothing to you. Don't really feel it. The noise is not there. Nigerians are special. Nigerians, we know how to celebrate Christmas.
Surely.
I tell you.
And if you just add some jollof rice and fried chicken to that mix, you have a complete set. You have the complete celebration. Christy, I apologize. We have to go. Thank you so much. Just wanted to celebrate your birthday today as well as Jesus Christ. Happy birthday and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
That's where we end the world today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Obani.